Is this working? I see a thumbs up. Oh, wait, that's the wrong finger. No, no, I see it. All right. Everything seems to be all right. We have our ace technical crew working on everything tonight. Very good to be with you. I felt the need to laugh. We've been so serious. So I have Constant Reader. This is a collection of some of Dorothy Parker's essays for the New Yorker and her reviews for the New Yorker. And she would sometimes review a book that you wouldn't expect and use it as an opportunity to talk about something else. So, and I've had this book, Constant Reader, since I've been a teen. Wait, let me do the math. Yeah, since I've been a teen. So here is her essay, Wallflower's Lament. Written in 1928. My God, that's 97 years ago, right? Everything all right? You guys are smiling.
We're seeing the comments.
Oh, right. So, Dorothy Parker writes, it has been lately drawn to your correspondence, she always spoke of herself that way, your correspondent's attention that at social gatherings, she is not the human magnet she would be. Indeed, it turns out that as a source of entertainment, conviviality, and good fun, she ranks somewhere between a sprig of parsley and a single ice skate. It would appear from the actions of the assembled guests that she is about as hot company as a night nurse. I don't mean that these facts have been pointed out to her in so many words, not as yet, although there is a fair chance that a certain young gentleman of her acquaintance who gets the Frankies after the fourth amidulose.
I'm sorry,
well, you're busy. It's all right. Amidulose, and goes around telling people what makes them so terrible, will shortly be sitting by her side and beginning, look, what's the matter with you? Thus far, she has drawn her deductions from the fact that the invitations have been dying off like flies. So most of her evenings are given to powdering her friends' backs or straightening their ties, as the case may be, saying, now have a good time and be sure to tell me who was there, waving bye-bye smilingly, and by then settling down for a hearty attack of the left all again yips. On such occasions, as she does make those parties where the hosts apparently assemble the list of guests by drawing names out of a hat, she sits in the center with her thoughts. Now remember that she, Dorothy Parker, is speaking of herself, in a corner with her thoughts smiling brightly, all the while in order to indicate a pathetic willingness to play. Or she listened to something that used to be in the SOS explained with the aid of paper and a gold pencil the course of the war from April 7, 1917 until the late afternoon of Armistice Day. So, being one who can take a hint after the first 30 repetitions, she is now conceding her flop and retiring constructively from society. Do you know anyone who would want a comparatively young woman, young as compared to, say, the Grand Canyon, for instance, fairly free and looks white under electric light, to sit up with the children in the evening and let the nurse go out? It is not that she hasn't tried to improve her condition before acknowledging its hopelessness. She says parenthetically, oh, come on, let's get the hell out of this and get into the first person. That's so Dorothy Parker. I have sought by study to better my form and make myself society's darling. You see, I had been fed in my youth a lot of tales about the way men would instantly forsake a beautiful woman to flock about a brilliant one. It is but fair to say that after getting out in the world, I have never seen this happen, not once. But I thought maybe I might be the girl to start the vogue. I would become brilliant. I would sparkle. I would hold dinner tables spellbound. I would have throngs fighting to come within hearing distance of me, while the weakest, elbowed mercilessly to the outskirts, would cry, what did she say? Or, oh, please, ask her to say it again. That's what I would do. Oh, I could just hear myself. Finally, we're getting to the book she reviews. So I got a book called Favorite Jokes of Famous People and settled down to read it. Memorize its gems and repeat them at select gatherings. And from the time of the world's premiere of my recital until this very living moment, I haven't had an evening off of my hands. It was doubtless ill-advised for me, a very tyro, or at least a pretty tyro, as a raconteuse, to start off with the selection given in the book as the favorite of Mr. Bruce Barton, a selection which, by the way, could scarcely be classified as the joke nobody knows. Thus does Mr. Barton begin his chosen story, quote, "In the pre-Prohibition days, two young men set forth one evening from Detroit in an automobile. Awakening the next morning after a somewhat tempestuous night, they found themselves parked in front of a large building, which they assumed to be a hotel, but was in fact a sanitarium. The proprietor of the institution was not only a vegetarian, but a zealous member of a religious order." Unquote. Dorothy Parker says that, you will admit, is a rough start for an amateur storyteller. You have to remember practically everything. Prohibition, Detroit, two young men, automobile the next morning, hotel which wasn't a hotel, proprietor who was not only a vegetarian but a member of a religious order. All of that is advanced stuff. It is perhaps sufficient to say that I made a fool of the anecdote. I represented the two young men as being from Fort Wayne. Since then, I have had no heart for favorite jokes of famous people. I can't even do much about reading it in moments of leisure. The book has been compiled by Frank Nicholson, who dedicates it to, quote, "a famous man whose favorite joke is not included in this collection. He did not choose to pun." So you can see that he's just a boy who's cut out to collect the best in humor. Mr. Nicholson adds his own touches in giving brief biographies of each celebrity who is represented. One recalls perhaps most sharply his dainty line in his Gene Tunney piece. Gene Tunney was the champion boxer. Gene says if he gets married, he'll quit fighting. What an optimist that guy is. Oh, that's old. Which is my entrant for the 1928 Pulitzer Prize for most not doing to advance American manners and standards of culture. It has to be guessed, too, that Mr. Nicholson does not confine his authoring to the biographies. Here and there, it seems as if he must have crashed into the jokes themselves. For example, in Donald Ogden Stewart's favorite story, The Magnificent Epic of the Horse That Sat on Eggs, Mr. Nicholson has Mr. Stewart referring to, quote, "that blankety blank horse." Dorothy Parker writes, "It has been my privilege to have known Mr. Stewart since he wore sailor suits. He was in the Navy during the war, and never yet have I heard him use any such expression as blankety blank, or at least not in the presence of a woman." Out of the favorite jokes of famous people comes one ray of light, one breath of strange new fragrance, one cool and silver star. That is the selection given by Mr. Ring Lardner, of course, the great sports writer. It is too frail, too exquisite to reproduce here, though I can scarcely tear myself away from quoting it. And it is a source of perpetual amazement that Mr. Frank Ernest Nicholson, author of What an Optimist That Guy Is, could have admitted this while violet to his collection. Probably he figured out some meaning to his masterpiece, and it will never, never realize it was Mr. Lardner at his sublime best, in the act of kidding the living tripe out of all such collections of famous things, of famous whoosies. Well, to get back to me as quickly as possible, writes Dorothy Parker, when our heroine found out that she was the bust of the season as a wit and elocutionist, she decided to turn to a good old standby: sex. Let others raconteur if they will, I said, but gangway while I go garbo. To that end, I acquired a book called The Technique of the Love Affair by one who signs herself a gentlewoman and set out to learn how to loop dancing men. I have thought in times past that I had been depressed. I have regarded myself as one who walked hand in hand with sadness. But until I read that book, depression as I knew it was still in its infancy. I found out from its pages that never once have I been right. Not once, not even one little time. You know how I ought to be with men? You always should be aloof. You should never let them know you like them. You must on no account let them feel that they are of any importance to you. You must be wrapped up in your own concerns, and you must never let them lose sight of the fact that you are superior. You must be, in short, what's wrong?
Sarah O'Brien points out that we are approaching the 5th anniversary of Open Book on March 16th. Is that possible?
God, we're getting old.
Or the 4th?
I'm getting old. I think it might be the fifth. I don't know.
Well,
20.
Can we count?
Counting is hard.
Wow.
Okay, that's amazing.
Oh, all right. And despite its abominable style and its frequent sandy stretches, the book makes, I am bitterly afraid, considerable sense. If only it had been written and placed in my hands, here we've been building to her last line, years ago, maybe I could have been successful instead of just successive. Dorothy Parker, Wallflower's Lament.
She was no wallflower.
She was no wallflower. You know, one of her, well, I mean, so many great lines. But,
We are approaching the 5th
I can't
anniversary. It's amazing. And look at how professional we look now.
Yes, now, fine. So Dorothy Parker was sitting next to Lillian Hellman at the theater, and they came before the curtain before the show.
But look at the camera booth.
Oh, to announce that Calvin Coolidge had died.
Oh.
You know this line?
No.
Dorothy Parker sitting next to Lillian Hellman. That's an assemblage of intellect.
It's exceptional.
And in any event, they announced that Calvin Coolidge had died, and Dorothy Parker turned to Lillian Hellman and said, "Shh, Lily, how can they tell?"
You know, it is only in his death that, well, open book friends,
Yeah.
this is more than you want to know, but it is only in the death of Calvin Coolidge that the street that my family grew up on
Yeah.
and the Kennedys grew up on got its name. Coolidge Corner.
Oh.
They renamed
'Cause
it
he
in
w-
the honor in when he died, and then it got renamed again.
This is in Vermont? No.
No, in Boston.
In Boston.
In Boston.
Oh my gosh. Silent cow. So thanks very much for being with us on our open book. Tomorrow is Friday. And
Already?
Thank God.
yeah. And I mean, in theory, we could do this, right? And you could open this from remote
You can do it
location.
entirely from the office.
Can I
for sure.
really? We'll figure it out tomorrow, but I'll do the promo tomorrow. So thanks for being with us tonight in our open book. Take care. Bye-bye. Now what do I do, Darlene?
I'll take care of it.
Okay.